Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Art of a Peaceful Mind. I'm Kim Root, your host, and today I'm so excited to introduce you to Daniel. Uh, uh, oh no, I messed up the name.
That's all right. Gutierrez is fine.
Gutierrez.
Yeah,
I've been saying it right all week, and now I'm messing it up.
that's all right.
So Daniel Gutierrez, he's a mindful leadership expert. Um, and let's just go into talking to him. Hi, Daniel. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello. Well, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. So I hear that you were a very successful person in the corporate world, and you worked with the people in the Obama administration at the White House, and have done many things. And I wonder what, after being so successful, what inspired you or gave you the courage to jump into a whole new field and take
Well,
off?
it's interesting. It's a great question, and thank you for asking that. And thank you for having me. One of the interesting thing about this shift in my life 7 years ago was that it's the second time in my lifetime that I've done that. That I've switched both very successful careers. So in the U.S., they have a company called Best Buy Electronics, and I helped build that company.
Really?
I started with them when they had 50 stores, and I ended when they had 1,800 stores. I decided to leave them. So I was successful there, and I left them and decided I wanted to be a motivational speaker and author. And so I decided to do that. And then, so successful in the corporate world because I was a president of a very prestigious organization in New York City. I was serving as you said, an advisor to the Department of White House Personnel for President Obama. I was a highly paid speaker. I got paid $10,000 to $25,000 an hour to perform on stage, and life was good. For the second time in my life, I managed to get myself back into a really good position. So let me paint a picture. So I'm in New York City. I'm at a membership-only restaurant. High above, who knows, 30-something floor. It happens to be winter. It's snowing lightly outside. And I can see the reflection of myself in the glass because they had tall glass, and I'm sitting in a big leather chair. Really full of myself, really, just, wow, look at me, I've made it, as Frank Sinatra would say, I can, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. And I'm sitting there looking at this reflection, and in a moment's time, I get like a tap on the shoulder from Spirit, God, whatever you want to call it. And the question that I got next was, and what values did you sell to be who you are today? And I was like dumbfounded because, again, I said I was full of myself. I was thinking I was I was doing pretty good. And I looked in the mirror. I looked in the reflection of myself again. And all of a sudden I saw tears going down my face. And I realized that that's changed. It was no longer working. Whatever I was, in that moment, it absolutely just changed. So I was ending my presidency in New York City with this group. So I ended that. Toward the end of the Obama administration, I just gave up. I just did. I was invited to White House calls, and I wasn't engaging in the White House calls anymore. And my speaking career, well, I decided I didn't want to do it anymore. Huh? And so I went on a journey, and I went to visit the monks in the Himalayas, and studied and learned from them. And then I studied and learned from the Sanskrit priests high up in the coffee plantations of the Himalayas. Then I took a journey over to the Amazon and worked with the maestros deep in the Amazon jungle. Then still do work with the Pacos and the shamans of the Andean mountains and the Quiros, who are the keepers of the Inca wisdom. One day I woke up after doing all that, and I was like, what? Why did I do that? Why did I leave my life? Be honest with you, I was broke. How did I do that again?
Wow.
And so what ended up happening was that after asking why, like, what were you thinking? I got a call from my sister, and she said, you need to come home. And I knew it was serious because mother had been sick. And no one says you need to come home unless you need to come home. And so I went home, and sure enough, mother was at the end of her illness. And long story short, she ended up passing away. But the answer to the question why was that all the work that I had done those 7 years was so that I could learn to become mindful, radically mindful, which is the topic of my new book coming out here in a few months. Radically mindful, that in order for me to have the experience that I had with my mother before she passed away, I needed to know how to be still. Something I didn't do in corporate, something I didn't do in business. I needed to know how to keep myself in the moment without the faculties of my humanness wanting to distract me into other areas of my thinking. And I was able to do that and have that experience with her. And it was absolutely amazing experience. And so I had been signed by Eckhart Tolle's agent to write a new book. And I was really excited about that. But I wrote the synopsis of the book, and we were having a hard time selling the book. My mother passed away. I realized that the reason why I was having such a hard time was because the book was to make money. I wanted to write the book to make money. Obviously, I'd been doing nothing for 7 years. I needed to get back on the scene.
Oh.
And it wasn't selling. So when mother died, I realized something about myself, and that was that if I didn't write from my heart, then it was never going to sell because it wasn't authentic, and people weren't getting that. So I ended up starting a new book, and that was the book called Radical Mindfulness. That's the book that's coming out in a couple months, and I'm really excited about that. So it's been a long journey. You know, it's a long journey when you think about peace and tranquility, and you talk about mindfulness. I'm not near the person I was, but I tell people all the time, you wouldn't have liked me back then anyway. I was quite the ass. But you know, today I'm very calm. I don't have any stress in my life, and life is beautiful. And the ocean is not the ocean without waves, and nor is life without problems. And so I just have learned to just kind of ride the waves instead of get tumbled by them.
Yeah, wow, quite a story. I know I've taken a lot of leaps off cliffs in my life too. I wasn't as radically successful before as you were, but anyway, it takes real courage to take those jumps into the abyss, you know. So
well, that's pretty much what it was. You're right. It was like, here we go.
Yeah, what am I doing? Right. Your intuition.
That's the question I had.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you know, when I opened up your website originally, at the top of your website, at the front page, is a quote that I just think is so special. So I would like to read it for everybody. So audience, please excuse me because I'm going to look above you because I have it written on my my monitor behind me. So it says, radical mindfulness is not only being aware and present, but being so present that you are monitoring your thoughts on a moment-by-moment basis and redirecting your actions toward your current intentions, followed by commitment. So there's so much in there. I mean, I love that, number one, you're monitoring your own thoughts, because that really shows that, oh, wait a minute, I'm not those thoughts. And so many of us, so many people are bothered by those blah, 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 blah going on all the time and distracted by it. But also that you're redirecting toward your intentions. And the part of following by your commitment is a real, I love that because it talks about responsibility. And yeah, so do you want to talk about that some? Because
you know, that's the definition of radical mindfulness. People today, because they know what mindfulness is. Mindfulness is very simple. Mindfulness is being aware. Right. You can be aware walking. You can be aware. You can be aware that you're watching this interview. Awareness is easy, but radical mindfulness is different in that it is the practice of mindfulness. In other words, if you go and take a yoga class in the morning or a meditation class, or you meditate in the mornings, This is the example. I'll give you an example. So recently I got asked to speak at an ashram, and I was thinking to myself, what am I going to teach them? I mean, they're like yoga masters and meditation masters. What could I possibly say to them that they don't already know? And so I was a little bit intimidated by speaking to them, but I realized something, that radical mindfulness is about the practice of mindfulness. So I said, okay, I'm going to speak to that. And so I sat down and they introduced me, and I started talking about mindfulness. And I said, okay, so I am clear that in an ashram, part of your practice is yoga, and you practice yoga a lot. So therefore, you probably practice meditation. And you could see them agreeing and looking at me. And I said, okay. I said, however, I also know that at the end of your driveway, which you call the property of the ashram, which is all peaceful and beautiful, is an extremely busy road, actually 4 lanes and a lot of traffic. If you pull out of your driveway and somebody almost hits you, if your reaction is to say anything but bless you, you have no practice. And they just looked at me and went, I said, you see, because anything but taking a deep breath and practicing is not practicing, right? So if you start yelling or throwing hand gestures or whatever that we do, then we have no practice. And so that's what I was trying to say, is that when we redirect our thoughts on a moment by moment basis, with the intentionality of adding commitment or action to that, we can change and shift our current situation in ways that we could only dream of. Because one of the things when I was writing the book, I was like, what do I do that makes me different from someone else? How do I find success when others can't? Well, I'm not different than you. I have the same humanistic thought patterns. And the difference is that I was really learning to get so present that I'm recognizing that the only power I have is in the present moment. So anytime I got outside of that, whether it be in the future or the past, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to pay the mortgage this month, then I absolutely gave my power away. So when I redirect my thoughts on a moment by moment basis, what I'm saying is, though I recognize that I have a mortgage to pay, I'm not going to allow it to distract me from the fact that in business, if I make the right calls to the right people, I will make money. But if I get distracted by my thoughts and about the future or the past, then by the time I think about it, you're right, the mortgage is due and you don't have it, right? So that's kind of what I'm saying, is bring yourself back to present. Bring yourself back to the realization that the only damage or the only fear that can be created about your situation is what you create. It's not even real. Now, a lot of people say, well, yeah, that's fine and dandy, but that doesn't change the fact that you have a mortgage. No, but it surely changes the fact that if you shift that energy, you're not worried about the mortgage. You might even come up with 5 months of mortgage by staying focused in the moment. And that's kind of what I was saying. Redirect your thoughts. Bring yourself back into the moment and commit back to your whatever it is that you're looking to bring into existence. So that's kind of where I was going with that, and it works because we're human beings and we get distracted. The problem is that we could be distracted in one moment, wake up a month later and realize, whoa, I've been distracted a whole month,
Yeah, right. So we can really be, I mean, in the classes that I teach, I talk about it like you can be mastered by your own thoughts or mastered by your own emotions, rather than you being the one in mastership and realizing you have to be in that quiet place inside, or maybe it's not so quiet, but the one who's watching, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Being still and recognizing that, maybe sometimes we don't have control of all those thoughts. 80,000 thoughts a day. Yeah. That's a lot of thoughts. 80,000. Think about it. No wonder I'm tired every day I go to bed.
Yeah, they're around all the time. Right?
If we allow them, you're right. They control us. They master us. They might as well put a little dog collar on you and walk you around outside.
Direct your life. Right. So for our listeners, how would you help them connect with that power inside, or as you call it, their inner greatness?
Yes. Well, I have step in the book, and I'm giving you guys a bunch of stuff that's in the book because I love giving stuff away. So these are the steps to getting radically mindful. These are the steps that are in the book that's coming out 2 months from now. So there's 6 steps. I'm just going to give you all 6 steps because this is what I do every day. And I teach my clients this because I recognize that if I can help them stay centered, because every time someone comes to me and frantic, it's because they fear something that hasn't even showed up yet. 85% of the things that we fear never come into existence. What a waste of time for us to put stress behind that and energy behind that. But we do. I get it. We do. So here's what I would ask you to do. The first thing is to get radically mindful is to use meditation, yoga, breathing, aromas. I love essential oils. Whatever it is that brings you back into the moment. Get yourself centered. The second thing is, as I ask myself is, where are my thoughts right now? Where are my thoughts? Are they in the future? Are they in the past? Or are they present? Now, the funny thing about that question is that if you have to ask it, you're not present, right? It's like I'm kind of setting you up because I'm saying, where are you right now? Well, if you're asking yourself that, then you're not present. You're not mastering your thoughts. They're mastering you. Is what you're saying. So where am I? The next thing that's really important. Now, remember the mortgage example. This is the one that will bring them back to being radically mindful. Am I okay right now? Am I okay right now? Well, of course you are. The mortgage is not due for a month, right? So what are y'all worried about? In this moment, if I'm present and I recognize that my thoughts are now in the present moment, then I am okay. Okay, so I'm okay. I can deal with that. Now, here's the next one. It's number 4. Are the thoughts I'm currently having real? And have they ever been real? So let's go to the mortgage again. Well, I can't pay the mortgage next month. That's the fear. But has it ever been true that you never paid the mortgage? No, because you wouldn't have a house. You pay it. Somehow, I don't know about you, but it gets done. It happens. Why does it happen? Because if we stay focused in the moment, we can do the things that we need to do. So most people would probably, I'm sure there's some people who would say no, because they let themselves get controlled and out of control and they didn't make the mortgage, and then they get to be right about what they were believing anyway. But what I'm talking about is that most of us probably recognize that whatever we were thinking about never has happened, but it's a pattern that we get into. It's a habit we get into to get that adrenaline rush in our body that we need to, fight and flight all the way through the month. So that's not true. The next question I ask is what you're doing right now getting you further or closer to your outcome? In other words, if you're an entrepreneur and if what you're doing right now, walking the dog is not making you money unless you're a dog walker, it's not going to do it. So if what you're doing right now, is it getting you closer or further from your desired outcome? And if it's not, then get back to presence and start doing the right thing so that you can pay that mortgage. And then the last thing, which is number 6, is act. That's what I mean by commitment. Act. That means a couple things. 1, break the energy you're in right now. Stand up, go outside, do what you got to do, but come back and act on that, on the presence, and do something in the moment that would get you the results you're looking for. In other words, if for an entrepreneur, it might be, you might want to market. Call that client. You might want to blah, blah, blah. You just put your own blank in there. All of us procrastinate, some of us more than others, but we do out of fear of what someone may or may not say. And the truth is that you don't know what a person's going to say until you ask them, because you don't know. You don't have that kind of control, right? So these are the things that I do on a daily basis, and I teach my clients. And it's simple, but does hard, because we think that we have to intellectually have something much more difficult in order for us to understand that it really works. No, it's the simple things that work, not the difficult things that work.
Right. So, yeah. It's the practice are the simple things, and they come up all the time in your life every day, right?
Right.
Work with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what you were saying before. So, I was asking about, like, what does inner greatness mean to you then? You talked about it in one of your blogs.
Yeah. Well, yeah, inner greatness is about not allowing people, places, and things to push you too far off the mark.
Mm.
You know, I think that sometimes we do get off our path, but not to get pushed too far away, and to believe in yourself in such a way that keeps you focused. And I'll give you an example. Just 3 days ago, I was in New York City. And after this hiatus that I took from business and getting myself back into the limelight, I guess, so to speak, I was invited to speak at Carnegie Hall. And so Carnegie Hall is one of the biggest stages in the world. Some of the young people may not know what it is, but excuse me, it's one of the biggest stages in the world. And I was so moved to be able to do that. And I did a video right before I got on stage, and I said, there are many people out there that through their own misguided understanding or lives want to tell us that we can't do something. For whatever reason, it has nothing to do with us. And when we have inner greatness, we're able to, you know, those big things they put on horses so they can't see from right or left, you know, that keep them focused. Sometimes I think inner greatness requires that we put those things on, and that you're going to disappoint people, and you may not pay some bills, and you may not do that. But if you stay focused long enough, it's kind of like a basketball player or a quarterback who fails more times than they succeed. But the fans only remember the success. They don't remember the negative things. And sometimes inner greatness requires that we put on those blinders, even though we may absolutely not feel good about what we're doing, because it requires that focus to get where we want to go. It requires that kind of radical mindfulness to drive us to the place that we need to go. If and when we are successful, and if you can't get wrong results if you're doing the right things. You got to ask yourself, am I doing the right things? But if we stay focused, and if we can keep our focus in the middle, then we get to do things like Carnegie Hall. I mean, it was a sold out crowd. I got to perform with band members of Earth, Wind, and Fire and Madonna's keyboard player. I mean, it was an amazing night. How did that happen? And I remember talking about that in the video. I said, wow, I was on stage with some pretty big people, right? Mm-hmm. And it happened because I believe in my own inner greatness. Even when I have people around me telling me, you can't do that, I don't listen to that. And you know, the thing I want to really highlight out of that is that I get that sometimes we do things, or maybe we get a loan from a parent or something, and it's hard to pay them back because you just hadn't made it yet. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. That's where you got to believe in your inner greatness. It just means you just got to keep going until you get it right. And then when you hit that success, they'll forgive you. They'll even ask you for the money themselves, you know. they'll get in line too. But that's inner greatness, is being able to keep getting up over and over again, even if you get knocked down, and saying, hey, you know, I believe that this is going to work. And I mean, how many stories are out there of people who have been in the same position, and who wins? Who wins? Well, the one that believes in themselves, the one that absolutely will not take no for an answer, the one that not only that, because success is only part of how we find peace and tranquility in our lives. I think being able to learn to really understand our own thoughts and understand ourselves better than other people do. Uh-huh. And then we find this beautiful place of success, and success means something different to everybody. So whatever success is to you, we can all get where we want to go. I always say we can have what we want to have when we can let go of the what it's going to look like, because we're not in charge of that. We're just in charge of being focused on the desire.
Yeah. So yeah, trusting. I mean, I think for a lot of people, like the jump into believing in that inner greatness or trusting it is a big one, because we're so we have a habit anyway to focus on the negativity, maybe as a protection, or the I can't.
Right. Or we were programmed that way. Exactly. Yeah, from the very beginning, we were programmed that way. I mean, I did a test once. I had a client that hired me to come in and help him with his company. And after doing my assessment, I said, let me show you something. I said, I'm going to do an experiment on one of your warehouse people. He goes, okay. So I walked by him and I said, you're doing a great job. Under my breath, kind of, doing a great job. Thank you very much. And no response. And then I came back and I said something negative under my breath. And he perks up and he says, what'd you say?
Really?
And I said, you see, that's the difference. We're programmed to hear the negative, you know, from the very beginning. We're programmed. So we have to understand that that's part of being mindful. That's part of understanding that I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just part of the human condition. And I don't listen to it. I always tell people, for me, rules were written for people that need to follow them. The rest of us get in front of the line and get what we need. You know, I just like, okay, those are nice rules. You can let that person fill out the application. Here's what I got to say to you.
So, so you have your book coming up, and also you have a free gift to share with the listeners. Would you like to share that with
I'm really excited about this gift, and I'll tell you why. I travel to Peru 3-4 times a year. I take people on spiritual journeys around the world. As a matter of fact, I'm leaving in a few days for my last trip of this year. And one of the years I was up in the Pachatusan Mountains of the Andes, and I was with a friend of mine who his name is Roberto Parera. And Roberto is a Latin Grammy award-winning harpist. And we were having coffee, and I said, Roberto, would you play for me? I'd like to do a 60-second meditation. He goes, 60 seconds? I can't even warm up in 60 seconds. He goes, I said, yeah, but you know what? Most people won't even do 60 seconds because they get distracted. But if I can get a person doing 60 seconds, maybe they'll do 120, 180, because meditation and peace and tranquility and mindfulness is designed for us to create it or do it in our own pace. It's not designed for me to follow a guru or whatever. You can get there by practice, but we got to start somewhere. So I said, can we do that? So we created this incredible 60-second audio of him playing his harp, which is absolutely beautiful, and me talking. Well, trust me, there's not a lot of time. It's 60 seconds, but we did pull it off. And that's what I'm giving away. It's that 60-second audio that we created. You just imagine we're in the Andes. It's a kind of a cloudy day. We're drinking coffee. He's playing his harp. It was just absolutely wonderful. And I thought, you know what? I said, I'm going to just give this away. And when you go to get the gift, it'll give you an explanation of the whole process and who he is and how you can look him up, because he's an amazing musician.
Wow. Sounds beautiful.
It is.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on here with us. Are there any other tips you'd like to share before we?
No, I would like to say, don't give up. Don't give up. Yeah. Life gives us too many reasons to give up. And it doesn't matter. I was just saying the other day, if you feel like life, especially for those of us that are over 50, if you feel like life has passed you by, it's probably because you turned your back on it. There's a lot of life out there. And for you young people, try what you need to try to get, don't let somebody, not a parent, not an uncle, not a brother, not a sister, tell you what to be. Because then you'll spend the first 30, 40 years of your life doing something you hate and then turn around and decide to do something you love later on. So don't waste your time doing that. Do what you love what you do, and life will be a lot more pleasant. So with that, I really appreciate everybody. Enjoy the gift. Peace and blessings.
All right. Thanks everybody for being with us, with Daniel, and see you next time. Thanks, Daniel. Bye.